All right.
Hi, everybody. We're excited to welcome Dr. Patricia Burt, who is at the University of Delaware. Hello.
Hello.
We're going to talk about preparing for a job in academia. So these are some of your questions. So I'll start with, what do you think schools are looking for in their candidates? Open question.
Yeah. So that is a really big question. And I think, I think with regard to your professional qualifications, that's going to vary from school to school. And I'll get back to that in a minute. But I think one of the things you have to realize is there's a set of personal qualities that I think people are looking for. Particularly if you're going for a tenure track position or a long-term position, colleagues want someone that they enjoy working with, period. They want someone who's generous, who genuinely cares about other people, who cares about students, who cares about faculty. They're gonna want someone who does not stir up drama. They're gonna want to have someone who's adaptable. For instance, right now, we're in this really crazy situation where all educators have to figure out how to transition their classes online. And for a lot of educators, this might be something that's somewhat uncomfortable and not something they're familiar with doing, but it's something that's necessary. And so you want to have someone on your team who's not afraid of a challenge, who's not afraid to try new things, who has that sort of sense of adventure. And then finally, I think you also want someone who has a generally positive outlook and someone with a sense of humor. Because, this is a person that in academia, life can get pretty hard at times. You might get rejections from, a conference or a publication gets rejected, and you're gonna need someone who can make you laugh. And so one of the things is when you're in an interview for a teaching position, I think, sometimes you can get so nervous that it masks your genuine personality. And I think it's really important to realize when you meet new people, they generally want to like you. And so to the best of your ability, you have to try to let those nerves calm down and let your personality shine through. So that's really important. With regard to your professional qualifications, like I said, that varies from place to place. And I think, some places are gonna really want someone who's focused on progressive pedagogy, and that's something that they really value. Another place, maybe some R1 institution really is looking for, they don't have anyone on their faculty who's an expert in post-tonal music, and so they're looking for that. And so here's another thing that I think is important to consider when you're on the job market. You might feel desperate and like you have to apply to every single job. And that's really a mistake. Like, you need to choose the job. You need to have an honest look at what your strengths are without any pride and no ego. Just realistically, this is what I have to offer as a professor and as a researcher, as an educator. And this is what I don't have to offer, because you do not want to try to mold yourself into a person that you're not, end up getting this job that really wants you to be good at X, Y, and Z, but you're actually really good at A, B, and C. Because that's just a really miserable situation to be in. You want to be in a job that's a good fit for you, and you're a good fit for them.
So one of the questions they asked was, what skills should they be working on while they're students to go into this field?
Yeah. Okay. This is so great. I love that you're doing this because this is sort of like all the things you wish you had known when you're going through the process yourself. So I think one thing is public speaking. Public speaking, practice speaking publicly as much as you possibly can. If you're shy and you're a freshman and you're in this class, raise your hand as often as possible. If you do breakout groups in your class and you come back and one person is supposed to summarize for the group what your group was talking about, be that person who offers to do that summary in public. Make mistakes now, get out all of the awkwardness now as much as you possibly can. So really take every opportunity you can to work on your public speaking. Writing is also really important, and writing about music theory is different than a lot of other kinds of writing. It's really technical. And I think the best way to start to understand the style is to actually read a lot of music theory journal articles. So at this point in your education, you should be taking time right now, make dedicated time each week to do some reading of a journal article from Spectrum or something, and do some reading, some music theory book reading. Just read as widely as you possibly can. And then I think keep up to date and best practices in theory pedagogy, theory and oral skills pedagogy. I mean, this is an amazing time right now for theory pedagogy because there are so many resources that quite frankly didn't exist when I was going through my degree programs. Just in the past 5 years, there's been an explosion and there's so much sharing going on, and it's really exciting. And so it'll give you lots and lots of ideas for when, if you're not teaching now, for when you have the opportunity to teach.
Great, those are great suggestions, thank you. So another question is, how important is it to publish and present while you're a student?
Okay, this question actually makes me feel a little uncomfortable. And I think the reason it makes me uncomfortable is because publication and presenting at conferences is like the final event of what can be a years-long process of reading and exploring a particular topic that you're interested in. And I think when we think about publication and presentations, like we're really thinking about the boxes that need to be checked so that we can put it on our CV. And I think that's actually a really dangerous way to think about it. I think what you really should be focusing on is making the time in your week, scheduling time, hopefully on a daily basis, where you have that quiet time that you can do the deep work that you need to do to think about interesting musical questions, so that you get in the habit of just having that, just the way you get in the habit of practicing your instrument, making that time to practice your instrument, that you're getting in the habit of making that time to do research and work on a research project. Because, you know, if you do that now and you learn that as a habit now, then later on, when you have just as busy a schedule and you've got to balance, you know, service work and meetings and teaching your classes and grading your papers, that you know how to create that space for yourself. If you make that space for yourself and you're doing it, you will come up with a product eventually. Now, that's not to say that you shouldn't be talking to your professors about opportunities to present. If you're working on something that's interesting and you feel like you'd like to share it with a broader audience, you should talk to your professors about, you know, what kind of venues do I have to share my work? Is there an undergraduate research fair that happens on campus? Is there the College Music Society, for example? They have sessions at the national conference that are completely dedicated to student presentations. And by working with an individual faculty member on your project, you'll know if it's ready or what you might need to do to get it ready and what the appropriate venues are going to be. But I would say, for the most part, really try to focus on making that space in your life, that quiet time, as a habit.
Yeah, and that habit hopefully will follow you through the rest of your career. And don't let anybody take that time. Really, it's tough. It's tough for us as faculty too. So that kind of leads into both of those, the last two questions. But, you know, as an undergraduate that are interested in research, how do they go about finding a research area?
Yeah, and that can be really tough. And particularly as an undergraduate, you may not be aware of how big the field really is and how many opportunities there are out there to how many questions still need to be explored. And so my first piece of advice is to read widely, which I already mentioned before. So not only does that help you get better at understanding the style of academic writing, but also you start to realize, oh, I didn't realize that people cared about this particular thing or this particular output from this composer or whatever it is. You might not realize, or you might not realize how exciting, you know, music cognition is, and you've never really heard of it before. And so now, so read widely. And then the second thing I would say is, I think we need to get, I mean, as a society, I think we need to become better at asking questions. And so I think that asking questions is something we can really even practice. So when you read something, give yourself 5 or 10 minutes and just write down as many questions as you can possibly think of, just to get in the habit of like, how do I ask meaningful questions? And some of the questions might be, you know, not very interesting and they're not going to be very fruitful, but that habit of asking questions, that practice, can also help you find the questions that actually are going to be interesting and might be worthwhile to follow. And then the third thing I would say is then once you have a couple of sets of questions that you feel like might be good research areas, you know, there's two things to think about. One is there going to be an audience for the answer to this question? Does anyone else care about this? And then there's, you know, which of these topics that I have on this paper here are the ones that really spark my own interest? Which ones do really resonate with my heart? Because, you know, research projects are long hauls. And if it's not something that you deeply care about, at a certain point, you're going to get to a place where like, oh, I'm so tired of this. I just want it to be over. And you really want to have something that you care so deeply about that you're just going to see it through all the way to the very end. And sometimes those two, like the outside audience and your own love, can conflict. But I will say that the presentations that I attend at conferences, the ones that are the most exciting for me and the ones that I go away with something really important are the ones, the subject almost doesn't matter. It's whether or not that person seemed to really get excited about what they're talking about. Because if they're excited about it, then I'm going to be excited about it. And someone who's talking about a popular thing, some hot topic in theory that's just sort of, whatever, I'm not really that excited about it. Well, I don't really want to hear what they have to say either. So, yeah.
Great. So another question was, how important is a mentor? And finding a mentor, whether it's in your university or outside your university, how do you get connected with, I think the question is more about like, while you're going into academia, you know, from the master's level or from the undergraduate level, how do you start making these connections to find people that'll help you?
Okay, so a mentor, not a mentor, mentors.
Let's say mentors.
Yeah, mentors are extremely important. And so, you know, you'd be surprised at how easy it is to reach out to someone. So you have to just not be shy. If you come across someone who you admire, say you meet someone at a conference and or you read a book by someone that really fascinated you, you know, there's no harm in sending an email and saying, I really love this, and can we chat about this thing in your book? Or, you know, I have some questions about my career, would you mind? People tend to be really generous with their time. And so I would say reach out. And it's also good to have someone who's close to home. So someone on your campus that you also really admire, and making sure and really listening carefully to their advice. You know, if you want to go into academia, you know, your professors have actually traveled the path and they can really save you from a lot of wasted time and energy by sharing how they got to where they are. And, you know, they can help you with so many things, how to write a proposal, to how to prepare for an interview, to how to get interesting internships, you know, whatever it is. So I would really recommend that you have, and then have not only mentors in the area of music theory, but also make sure you have life mentors. Yeah. Because again, like this is a long road and it's really helpful to have people who can help keep you on the right track. And at times, you know, when things get really tough, it's so great to have a mentor that you know has invested time in you. And so you want not only to do well for yourself, but also you want to do well because to honor the people who've helped you to get to where you are so far. So.
Great advice. Great advice. Thank you so much for joining us and just sharing your words of wisdom. Do you have any other parting things?
No, just good luck as you go through what looks like it's going to be a really unique semester. And yeah, and I wish you guys lots of luck. And it sounds like this class is a ton of fun. I wish I could be in it. So,
Thank you.
yeah. Okay.